Hey, what's going on, guys? Ethan and I are getting ready to plan a trip. We're going to go pick up a vehicle down in Alabama. So I've already had a couple long trips here lately on the old Dodge Hemi, and it's time for another oil change. And I know this has been discussed a lot. There's probably over thousands of videos on this, but this is my take on things. Especially with the later model vehicles, and also especially with the Hemi Gen 3 platform. And my thing is oil change intervals, what oil to use, what oil not to use, synthetic, conventional, the list goes on. For me, since everything basically in my driveway except for Ethan's Honda, has a Gen 3 Heavy in it. The oil galleys on these things are small. And I've seen a lot of people in the past, well, I run full synthetic in mine, or I run a heavier weight oil to deal with the lifter issues. And, and it probably works for them. I don't know how many miles are on their car. But for me, mostly everything in my driveway has over 107,000 miles on it. Either I bought them blown up, and I rebuilt the motors, or they had a little over 100,000 when I got it. For example, this truck here, I bought it 7 months ago from the bank. They had an auction. I've been eyeballing this truck for years, but I knew it hadn't been driven much since the bank owned it, and it had like 135,000 miles on it, and so I got it, and they told me it was going to need a service. Hadn't had a service done in a while. So I went and had all the fluids done in it, changed the oil, make sure everything was copacetic, and I tried to change my oil regularly. And well, the past few months I've made a lot of big trips in this truck, so it's definitely due now for an oil change. Now for me personally, I do my oil changes at 3,000, 3,500 miles. I've seen other people, they got oil now that's for 5,000 miles, 8,000 miles. For them, that's good. That's not me. I like to change my oil religiously in these things. And as some of y'all have seen, or you haven't seen, the purple Dodge pickup truck I had to rebuild the motor on because lack of maintenance, lack of oil changes. But if you haven't seen the videos yet, go back to my channel and look at all the Barney builds, and you'll see what I had to go through with that motor. But especially on these Gen 3s, man, stay on top of it. Most of the times I get these things blown up, it's due to a lack of oil changes. They ran them out of oil, they overheated them. It sucks for them because it's an expensive deal. It's good for me because I buy them and rebuild them. So anyway, I'm doing an oil change today. First thing we're going to start off with is different types of oil. If you have an owner's manual, go buy that. Here comes the rain. Sorry about that. We had some rain come in. I got a metal building here, so it would have canceled out the audio. So anyway, people use conventional oils, synthetic oils. I'll give you a prime example. This Hemi here, in this 04 conventional oil. My son's 300 SRT8 gets full synthetic. His happens to be a 040 weight. This truck here, since it's a truck motor, with it being 04, does not have the cylinder deactivation system in it. So this gets a 530. A lot of other vehicles with the MDS system usually run like a 520 weight. And so my vehicle runs the 1030, or 530, excuse me. And on the oil filters, I usually use, in my case, I either use the Mopar filter. I've never had any problems out of them. Of course, like I said, I change my oil every 3,000, 3,500 miles. Or I use a Wix filter, and or try to anyway. There's sometimes I've had to use regular filters in between changes because they just weren't in stock. And but that's my preference of of the oil filters. Other thing is, dude, when you're changing your oil, do it when the engine's warm. Undo the drain plug, let it drain all the way out. Let's get all the crap out of it. And then once that's drained all the way, put it back on. But there's so many people out there, so many preferences of oil to use, filters to use, intervals. I've even seen some of my comments in the past where guys have used 50 weight racing oil in their factory heavy. And it runs perfectly fine. You know, that's fine and dandy. Like I said, I don't know what your mileage is on your car or what you've had done other than it being bone stock. But you need to kind of use the preferred weight. And this vehicle here has 153,000 miles now on it. It doesn't smoke. It's got plenty of power. You know, so I'm sticking what's recommended. And a lot of y'all, if you don't know what oil to use, on some models, my cap doesn't have it, but it'll state what oil to use. There's going to be a synthetic, non-synthetic, a 5W30, a 10W30, a 5W20, a 040 weight. A lot of times, it's on the cap. Sometimes it's on the information sheet underneath the hood. And if you can't find them in either places and you have an owner's manual, look at the owner's manual. It'll tell you the recommended oil to use for what vehicle, what model, what engine. So in my case, I actually still have the owner manual. I have all the paperwork to this truck, which is a good thing. And you can go through there and find out what's going on. It's like right here, recommended fluid, lubricants, genuine parts for your engines, depending on your application. You can sit here, you know, and it tells you the antifreeze, the coolant to use, the intervals. Of course, it'll tell you all your other fluids and stuff, your belts. A lot of times you can find your information in there. If not, these days we have the internet. You can go online. You know, what oil does my vehicle use? What oil filter does my vehicle use? But these days, there's a lot of places you can go for information on these vehicles. Yes, I'm sweating because it's hot today and I got the fan on low. But go by your recommended. I mean, these newer vehicles are different from the old vehicles back when I grew up, where you could almost basically throw anything in it. You don't change it for the next 2 years. The damn thing still stays running. These motors are more sensitive. I mean, there's motors out there now that if you don't have the right motor oil in it, it detects it. It pops up in a check engine like, hey, wrong motor oil detected. To me, that's nuts, but that's how these cars are. And your car won't run right. You'd be like, why is it acting up? Well, come to find out, I've got the wrong oil in it. Or if you change a different weight or brand and all of a sudden your liquors are chattering, you don't know why. You put the wrong oil in it. And a lot of these newer motors today, you know, like your Hondas and stuff like that, that use part of their VVT system to the oiling system, you put the wrong oil in the shit, it don't work right. And this is stuff I've had to learn as I've gotten older. My vehicle's gotten newer. My newest vehicle is an '07. Go figure. But that's where I'm at. That's where I'm comfortable. But always check your owner's manual. Go online. Check the specifications. Don't put a more heavyweight. Don't put a synthetic in a motor that doesn't require synthetic. If you got a motor that requires only synthetic, don't put a conventional in it. You know, and I'm sure I'm going to see it in the comments. Well, I've used it, no problems. Blah, blah, blah. But that's how I feel about it. I get longevity out of my cars just by doing the simplest things, staying on top of things. You know, like I said, everything I own's got over 100-something thousand miles on it. My Charger now has 205,000 miles on it. You know, and I plan on driving these cars until there's nothing left of them, so I'm going to stay on top of the maintenance. You know, these days, having a car with over 100,000 miles on it isn't no big deal. And of course, here we go with the comments again. Well, that's a lot of miles. Dude, these days, you know, like this thing, 135,000 miles. My O2 I got rid of just like that. I got rid of it with almost 400,000 miles on it. And it was still running when I got rid of it. You know, if you take care of your vehicle, stay on top of oil changes, tune-ups and stuff like that, it'll last you a long time. Yeah, there's going to be some sessions where something goes bad, it breaks, you got to pay for it. That's just part of the game. But you know, the general rule of thumb is if you take care of a vehicle, it's going to take care of you. I don't care if it's Ford, Dodge, Chevrolet, Saab, whatever else. To me, it's just a good peace of mind, especially when you do road trips. Something you don't have to worry about. But other than that, guys, I'm going to get back to doing an oil change. So we just got finished draining the oil out of the truck. You can see now there's nothing left dripping in it. And so we're going to get the drain plug back in. And also too, guys, use the right socket when you take these drain plugs off. This one here has some strip marks from where they've used the wrong wrench or the wrong socket. And yes, I still like doing my own oil changes. Just for the simple fact that I've done it, and if I messed up, it's on me. Where a lot of times you take one of these 10-minute oil change places, you hear the stories of them forgetting to put the drain plug on, or the filter didn't get put on tight, or they used the wrong oil. And the good thing for me, for the most part, my truck sits up high enough I don't have to jack it up. Now, the worst thing I do hate, taking the filter off, you always manage to get it on your hands. Especially when it's still a little warm. So what I usually do is I loosen it up until it starts draining out and let it drain. A little bit of the excess out of it. The last thing you want is hot oil on your hands. All right, let's see if we can get the rest of this out. Depending on how this goes, it might splatter all over the place. Now let's get that nice Mopar filter on there. Now I always fill my filters up before I put them on. Usually I get them snug, tighten them up by hand. Worst thing I hate is someone who's used their oil wrench and tightened the hell out of it. So now that we got the drain pan back on the oil, or drain plug back on the oil pan, we got our new filter installed. It's got oil in it, so let's go ahead and fill the motor up. You'd be surprised sometimes how many people forget to put the drain plug back in, or the filter, or both. They want to know why all the oil is on the ground. That reminds me of a story. A friend of my son, they went to school together, and he wanted to become a mechanic. So he went to the school and everything, did his 20 months, whatever else. got him a nice little job here at one of our respectable shops that have been here forever. And he gets over there on a job. And of course, a lot of y'all are taught, if you're mechanics, that you make your money by the job unless you work somewhere else. And it's by the hour. Well, this kid was getting paid by the job. So he turned around and was busting these cars out left and right. And the owner of the company sat there and told him, says, appreciate the enthusiasm, but slow down, you're gonna mess up. And that kid didn't listen, and one day he messed up. And it was a real simple thing. It was an oil change. So he goes in there, does the oil change, gets done, parks the car in the parking lot. They call the customer to let them know that the car is ready. The customer goes pick up his car, walks to his car, and there's a big puddle of oil underneath it. Well, this new mechanic, hotshot, one of the simplest things in the world, forgot to put the drain plug back in all the way. So the whole time it was sitting there, it was leaking oil out. Say the least, he lost his job that day. I mean, people make mistakes. I get that. But when you're a young kid, you know, going through there and doing what you're doing, you think you know everything already, and you're hauling ass trying to make that money. That mistake could have cost that shop owner $4,000 to $5,000 if the customer left out with that car with the oil leaking like that. That would have been a motor replacement. And maybe he'll learn now. I don't know if he's still doing mechanic work or not. And just one of those things, man, just double check your work. Even I forget sometimes. And but I always try to make a practice of it. So now I got all the oil in it. My particular vehicle takes 7.5 quarts. So I've already topped off my filter, topped my fluids in. I did this thing like clockwork. So let's start this thing up and get it circulating for a second. So you always want to start up, let it run for a bit, let the oil circulate. Then turn around, give it a second. Check your dipstick, make sure everything's good on that. And sometimes you might just have to add some oil to it. And that's the other thing too that guys don't understand. You know, basically back in the day, our old cars, man, they only took like 4 or 5 quarts. That was it, including the filter. You know, these days they different. This one's 7.5 quarts. So you go to AutoZone, you pick up 5 quarts of oil, the filter, think it's like old school stuff, pour it in there, you're 2 quarts low. So let's check real quick. Wipe the old dipper sticker off. Look at our marks. And I'm basically halfway, which is where I like to run mine at. So basically I'm about, feel the top of the line about 1/4 of a quart off. But like I said, I like to ride mine right there in the middle. But basically that's it. Maybe a little information, might have helped you, might have not. Just my personal take on things. I got the oil change in this. I'm gonna finish checking all the other fluids before we make our road trip. And the next video is gonna be on what we're picking up. Other than that, guys, I'll see you down the road.